How we doing, everybody? Welcome to Bugbears and Brews. My name is Brian, and today we're going to go ahead and recap our 44th encounter for our Out of the Abyss campaign that took place last Wednesday. So there's a much smaller table this week due to a couple people being out, as well as myself having a personal issue come up, and then later having that resolved after I already sent out the cancellation meeting or notice. So altogether, we had two of our standard players. Cinder, who is our rogue, and Walker, who is our druid, along with a newcomer at the table. Not sure if he's going to be coming on a regular basis or not, but sounds like he's going to try to at least make it every other week, who played a bard named Nyx. So this here was a stealth mission into the source here, and it worked out really well because of the players that we had at the table. I think if we would have had the full group like we normally do, it would have been a much different encounter, but since we had more of stealth-based characters, it allowed us to do this kind of James Bondy, sneaky-in type actions. So let's go ahead and start covering everything that happened. So it started with the, forgive me here for a second. Started with the group entering the Cobalt Peanuts and getting rushed immediately by the maitre d' down to meet with their contact. Turns out that that contact was Draxel, who is part of the Brigand of the Earth mercenary force, actually the leader of it. He's had an eye on the people coming in, or on the party coming in to Minzo Brinzen, and was kind of curious what they were up to. Had a vague understanding what they were looking for, but didn't have 100% solid ideas on what they were looking for. Luckily, Cinder and Walker didn't give them much guff and gave up the goods and said, "Here's what we're after. We're looking for Grump's grimoire." And Draxel said, "Hey, you know what? I can get you guys into the source here. I can't get you all the way up to there. I got an agent on the inside who turned out to be Nyx, our bard character that joined for that day. We can at least get you in there, and then from there, Nyx can probably get you up to where you need to be, and then from there on out, you're on your own. However, in order for me to do that, he wants to be able to copy the grimoire. He understands you guys need the original, but he at least wants a copy of the grimoire. That way he has... he alluded to the fact that he wanted some like extra protection or blackmail type stuff for Grumpf, wherever Grumpf may be. From there, you guys went and started up your way to the source here. He gave you some amulets and whatnot that would help disable the wards going into the place. And then going up to the actual source here itself, it was guarded. However, through one of the upper windows there, you saw a tiefling who was dumping out some night soil and that kind of stuff from the window. And given the description that Draxel gave you of Nyx, you guys decided, hey, that has to be Nyx. You guys did a little communication back and forth there and decided, you know what, this has to be it. And threw up some grappling hooks and made your way up through the windows versus going through the front door and trying to sneak in that way. From there, Nyx was able to give you a basic rundown of what's going to happen of going up to the top. He was also able to give you the insider information of if you see the spiders, don't mess with them. They'll normally go about their business if you don't mess with them, so just leave them be, which actually did come and play here in just a few minutes. First couple stealth checks through, you guys passed without much issue. We did it as a group-based stealth check, so as long as 2 out of the 3 of you made it, there was no encounter. That, for the most part, took place. You did have one encounter with a spider. A spider put up a web in between some hallways there that you had to go through, and you had the option of either trying to disrupt the web, which really makes the spiders mad, as Nyx let you know, because he constantly has to clean these webs, or you can go around, which would take quite a few minutes more in metagame. I let you guys know it'd be at least 2 additional stealth checks for the group. Guys came up with a plan. I think Nyx cast fear on the spider and caused the spider to run away, and you guys quickly cut a hole through the webbing and ran on through. From there, you didn't have much issue getting into Grump's area. Even with the increased stealth checks as you went further and further on, I think this group really was made for this mission. So even when you had one person fail, the other checks were so well and above the DC that there was no issue there. Once finally getting to Grump's outer door, Cinder was able to pick it with ease, but you guys didn't bother to check for traps, which kind of hurt you. Nothing too bad though. Once you got into Grump's room, the doors slammed shut, and there was a click, the door relocking, and a fire elemental came forth from all the candles that were still lit. What they were doing still lit, we don't know. And the other thing is that there was no dust or anything like that in the room. It was pristine, even though Nick's let you guys know that nobody's been in that room for some time. Forgive me. The fire elemental, it really didn't really didn't have much of an issue taking it out. You guys kind of did a nice little triangle type setup in the room, and the fire elemental was running around between you guys. Cinder did get lit on fire a couple times, but he said, you know what, he's not going to deal with that, waste his action to put himself out. He was just going to suffer the damage of the fire. So like I said, the fire elemental went a lot quicker than I expected, which was good. And then from there, you went ahead and started searching through the Grump's desk and his bookshelves, which led to trap number 2, which was a statue activating, and the statue was a 4-armed drow warrior. This one here, I had to, when I knew what kind of group we were going into, I knew I was going to have to make some modifications to this one, and I wasn't sure what modifications I was going to do yet. And then Nick said, hey, I'm going to use, what was it? No, the mocking cantrip. I forget the name of it right now. Which is psychic damage and then imposes disadvantage on it. I said, you know what? Realistically, the stone golem is immune to psychic damage. However, this is a really nice way to not do a lot of alteration, but also make it so that it's a little bit more in your guys' playing field. So I said, I wiped away that psychic immunity there and allowed it to take in the damage from the mock. And I could not save on that golem for the life of me, even with the magical resistance. So I don't think there's a single time that the mocking didn't work. And so it didn't take a lot of damage from that, but it imposed disadvantage on all 4 of its attack rolls, which are really huge. Even with the disadvantage, I still think I hit you guys 1 out of every 2 times, or 1 out of every, yeah, it's probably about every other time I hit you guys. I mean, the guy had a pretty beefy plus to hit. So that was really, I expected it to hurt you a lot more than it did. I guess in the end, you guys were pretty beat up, but the way you guys handled it with the mocking there, and like I said, that was me allowing that to happen. I think it worked out really well. It gave you guys some challenge, but it wasn't overwhelming instant death that it probably would have been if it wasn't immune to psychic damage. From there, once you guys dispatched that guy, you found the secret door, and you couldn't unlock it because there was no locks there. Luckily, Cinder had knock available and knocked the door, and the knock didn't seem to draw any additional attention there, so that was good. However, on the other side of the secret door was this big black void of nothingness. Unsure of what to do about this void, you guys decided, you know what, one of us is going in, which was Cinder by volunteer. But Cinder wrapped a rope around himself or herself and went into the void, and right into the void, he was teleported into a maze. Luckily, Cinder, being a Girl Scout, was able to keep your hand on one side of the wall and just keep on walking, and found the exit without issue. And that led Cinder into what could best be described as Grump's inner sanctum. Inside the inner sanctum, there was a lectern on the far side of the wall with a book on it, presumably Grump's grimoire. And there was also a binding circle with the same female drow that we saw a couple weeks back that was trying to get you guys to join Loth's side and replace the demon lords with yourselves, as long as you guys are kind of subservient to her. At her feet, within the binding circle, was an additional book. There was a bit of discussion between Cinder and the yokel And while that took place, Walker and Nix weren't quite sure what to do because Cinder's been gone for some time. So they said, screw it. We're going into this void as well. They held hands. And so I made sure with them holding hands, I said, you know what, they're going to end up in the same place in the maze. And when they did that, I allowed them to roll with advantage on the intelligence checks to get out. It took them quite a while to get out of there. So they're going to be in the maze until I talk about them coming out of the maze. And we were doing checks every couple sentences or so into the discussion with Cinder and Dioclo. There was some checks there going on behind the scenes with Nix and Walker. So Cinder wasn't quite sure what to make of this because Dioclo was saying, hey, that could be a fake book and I could have the real book in my hands here. What are you going to do? You know, she'll let you know which one was the real book as long as you tell her or join sides with her. Cinder, not liking that, decided that she was going to turn invisible and waited a few moments, walked around the room a little bit, made sure that there was no other additional books hanging around that looked like it could be the Grimoire, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to make a mad dash through this binding circle, doesn't care if they disrupt it, grab the book, and then dash back through the maze. As that happened, Nix and Walker came out of the maze and then saw that the two books are flying back towards the maze, and here's this the same yokel that Walker saw before. Nix has no idea what was going on with it, just screaming in rage about the book being stolen. And so as Cinder was running by invisibly, he said, hey, get on through to the maze, we got to go back. So in went Cinder by himself or herself, rolled a nat 20 immediately out of the maze, and then waited for Walker and Nix to go through. Walker and Nix holding hands skipped merrily back into the maze, and the yokel chased after them. Took quite a bit of time. I think it's 4 or 5 rolls for Nix and Walker to make it out of the maze. The yokel really struggled in there. Not even making it out until much, much further down the line as we were making our escape. But you guys made your escape from the maze, and then from there, you easily picked the lock of the door and decided, you know what, you're going out this big crack in the wall of the Sorcerer to get out from there and exit out without running back through the tower because you didn't want to sneak around this time. You had this crazy demon lady chasing you guys. So you decided, you know what, we're going to go ahead and turn into Nix and Walker used polymorph and turned into giant bats, and then Cinder rode you guys down. Even with disadvantage on the stealth checks on the bats, there were some really good rolls, and so there was no issues with that. From there, this really boiled down to you guys having good stealth rolls throughout this whole mission. You guys were able to exit the Sorcerer and get back to the Cobalt's Peanuts and eventually back down to Draxel. From once meeting back with him, you guys let him know that, hey, you have the 2 books, you're not sure which one's real or which one's fake. And he took his eye patch and he moved it to the other eye. And he said, well, this one looks tainted, this one doesn't. But the one that looked tainted was the one that was in the on the lectern. And so the one that wasn't tainted looked like it was the one at the yokel's feet. After a little bit of debate and trying to figure out which way is right, which one's not, you guys decided to go with the untainted one. And as Draxel burnt the other book, it screamed with all sorts of demonic noises and evil and all that kind of fun stuff. And from there was a bit of discussion about, hey, you know, this wherever this amulet's placed that Devere made is where this summoning in Royal Rumble is going to take place. And Draxel said as much as he knows people don't like Minz and Brunson, it's his city, and that if you guys put the amulet anywhere in Minzo Brunson, he's going to use all his strength in numbers to try to stop that from happening because he doesn't want to see his city destroyed. And that was the end of the session. Next week, we are picking up immediately with the Rumble of the Demon Lords. So I sent out, here's which Demon Lord, so going over it. Don is Yinigu, who is the Null Demon Lord. Eric is Baphomet. Forgive me if I mispronounce any of these names. who is the, if I recall correctly, like the Minotaur type Demon Lord. Mark is Jubilix, which is the Uzi Demon Lord. Shane, wow, not Shane. Shane's the new guy. Sean is Frez Uberlu, who's the Demon Lord of lies and deceit and madness and illusion, or not madness, but lies and deceit and that kind of stuff. There is one that Darnella was suffering from for some time, and then Shane, if he makes it, will be Zictami, and then Tom is our big powerhouse with Demigorgon, and then Trevor, his son, is Orcus. So I see this. Orcus and Demigorgon are definitely the strongest of the Demon Lords, I would say. So it's kind of interesting that we'll have father and son as the tops, and they will probably be a big battle there. Curious how this is all going to plan out there. I'm really excited for next session. So if you can, please make sure you're there that a little bit early. That way we might get started a little bit early. Or I'm not saying come at like 5:30, but like if we start rolling at 5:45, that gives us 15 extra minutes of this next session. Because like I said, I expect this to be immediately just go right into the session. A little bit of story about, hey, here's what happened in between the time and when the summoning takes place. There's a little bit of discussion I have to do there with one of the players about where the summoning will take place. As much as you would think it'd be a group decision, there's a chance that it's not, based on what this player decides to do. From there, we can let you in on what happened behind the scenes there. So let me know if you guys have any questions and what you thought about having stealth-based adventures. You know, like I said, this is really the first time I've ran a stealth-based adventure surrounding just stealth-based characters and a smaller group. I've done a couple smaller or a couple stealth-based adventures with a larger group where you're dealing with, you know, overcoming like the heavy armors and whatnot. I've never done one which was a stealth-based mission along with just stealth-based members and dealing with the hurdles of not having the tank, not having a healer. I guess realistically Walker and Nyx did have healing, but they were more focused offensively. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you next Wednesday.